KC9VKV.
W0BTU.
Yeah, you were talking about spark gap transmitters. Used to take old Model A coils and use those for spark gap transmitters.
I can believe that,
And just take the use a spark plug gap and just pull that gap in. And also, I had a science teacher that one time said you can't transmit audio with a spark gap transmitter. They're just for CW. So I brought in a 50-watt amplifier and hooked it up in place of the battery, and took the vibrator contacts and closed those. So the only drive that this spark gap transformer got was from the power amp, and ran it up to about 50 watts. And lo and behold, you could play music and tell exactly what it was.
Oh, that's cool. So you developed your own spark gap modulator.
That's cool.
Roger, it took about 50 watts to do it, but it could be done, and my science teacher stood corrected.
I got a book years ago, 2 books. One of them was a 1921 Army Signal Corps manual, and about 2/3 of the book was about spark transmitters. At the end, they talked about tubes, which were new then. And what fascinated me was those federal arc converters. Something about a big, powerful magnetic field just kind of stabilized the arc. It made it more narrow banded, but it was nothing like. Anyway, they did away with all that stuff and went to tubes.
Roger, that was a military manual that actually talked about the spark gap transmitters?
Yeah, it was a radio, Army radio, I have to go upstairs and get it. 1921, the Signal Corps. It was the Signal Corps field manual.
Roger. That's could have been done in Marconi's hands, you know, back in that day.
Yeah. I'll never sell that book. Every once in a while, I'll go up there and just take it down. It's just interesting. Back, I was in 6th grade. I built one with plants and that.
Yeah, I had a little black book that had all kinds of spark gap transmitter schematics in it, you know, and all kinds of early radio stuff, probably vintage 1924, 25 through there. And it was just like a little 6-inch book, you know, not a big book or whatever, and in black cover. And somehow I misplaced that, and I regret that, man.
I had a book like that was primarily on crystal radio, from like 1900.
That would be like a cat's whisker detector.
Yeah, I play a lot with I use cat's whisker. I use a diode tube, all kinds of cat's whiskers and germanium diodes, all kinds of junk. That stuff's a blast.
You ever use a Brantley coherer? That was the ion fund. They went beyond that. Or the electrolytic detector. This Army Signal Corps book talked a lot about that. I don't think I ever did it.
The old Galena detector?
Well, yes, Galena. I got one here about 2 feet from my head here behind the monitor.
Oh, that's cool. Galena is a Missouri State mineral.
Yeah. Well, you can't buy it anymore. The government has placed. I was in a on the way to St. Louis one day, and there was a rock and mineral shot on the north side of what was it, I-44, I guess it was. And I went in there, and one time there was this huge chunk of galena. Well, I went in there a couple of years later, and there was nothing. I asked the guy about it. He says, no, the government passed a law where only the government can use that because it's not radioactive. So any radioactivity could send a ray in a computer memory and change a 1 to a 0 or something like that.
You know, you can take a germanium diode and take a pair of earphones, put one side of the earphones to ground, and put a slight little antenna on that, and through a germanium diode to the high side of the earphones, and actually monitor your transmitter in the AM mode. You hear it just fine.
Yeah, I made a lot of those when I was a kid. Anyway, W0BTU.
K0, okay. Yeah, I built a couple crystal sets, with the germanium diodes, and I think I built one with the galena detector too, if I recall.
KC9VKV. Yeah, they're great. And you can hear, exactly when you bring the audio up to the point of distortion and back it off a tad, and you'll be at 100%.
Oh, that's a pretty cool idea. Oh, I think you were describing that the other night. You said that you inductively coupled the detector to your transmitter wire, right, to the coax?
Roger, I got a coax bundle that runs alongside the house, and everything and its brothers in it. It's about a 6-inch bundle of coax, and so I just used one of the coax runs that I wasn't using, and it had enough signal in it by running parallel with the transmission line, particularly on these frequencies here, 75, 80 meters, and just used the shield off that antenna to pick up enough signal through the germanium diode through the earphones to hear it just fine, even on the low power, like 100 watts.
On AM.
Yeah, Roger. AM only. Sideband, of course, you hear just sideband.
Do you ever take them germanium diodes and make them light an LED?
No, they're not, they're small signal diodes, so I don't think they're going to handle much current, Roger.
I think what he was saying, you could take one of the older 1M34s, and they would glow like an LED. I've seen that here with some of the old glass ones that I have, but most of them up, I have a few left.
I know some of the crystal sets that I played with, instead of using germanium diodes, I used the jockey diode, and I got much better reception out of them.
That's right. A lot lower voltage drop. Yep. And back in the day, they used to use silicon, and they would bias the diode. I mean, it had quite a large. And you could do this with anything, other things besides silicon detector. If you put a low voltage DC bias voltage on it, it would kind of, I don't know how to explain this, but it would put it up into a area of its characteristic curve. Is that the right expression?
Would turn it on, huh?
Anyways, it would work if you didn't have that on a silicon diode. Well, it didn't work as good as galena or germanium or whatever.
Right, they're all small signal diodes turn on at 0.3 volts, as opposed to the larger power diodes that would come up at 0.7 volts. Jockey diode where does that turn on? Pretty low
old folks. I don't remember, do you?
I think.
Point three, most of them are point three.
I got some BAT, I don't know, ham sound to me, I forget, it was even lower than that.
I'm thinking like 1.5 volts.
I was talking point three.
I know I had a lot of fun with them crystal radios, man. I had one with the BSO in it and everything. See, I'd play on 80 meters with it. I had a blast with the stuff.
As a receiver or as a transmitter?
As a receiver.
Roger.
That regen radio.
I gotta go find these diodes and see what number they are. Look them up on Google. W0BTU. Just be listening.
I'm starting to have trouble copying Mike there. Some serious QSB. But boy, you are booming in here, Jim. You're almost 40 over.
Well, good morning and praise the conditions gods. I copied somebody way off there. Anybody copy that station?
I can almost copy him. Is that, darn it, the station in Minnesota?
Give me your call sign, W0BTU. Juliet Bravo Victor. I hear you pretty good here in southwest Missouri. Anyways, I'm in the middle of trying to find something here. I'll be back here in a little bit, gentlemen. W0BTU.
I'm going to bed, everybody. Have a good night. NAYMC.
Any night, Jack.
Night, Jack. KD8YGQ.
Catch you later, Jack. Have a good night, sir.
Hello, Jack. Good night, Jack. K0OKS.
See you, Jack. WW8M.
And I think that was Richard in Minnesota who I can't hear right now.
Yeah, Minnesota station. Come back and try it again. I don't hear any mumblings even now.
Fellas, while I'm thinking of, I've got a very important question to ask you guys. Who can I get to work on my ICOM? I need help.
Okay. These dials are BAT 96 or 46. Let's take them out of the package and Google them.
What are they, small signal diodes or bigger power diodes?
Oh, they're real small signal, like Scott keys with a really low voltage drop, if I recall.
Are they blue?
Or are they clear?
Are they what? I double with a couple of you.
I think somebody said, are they blue? And then I said, are they clear? Like to be able to look like you could see through them.
No, these are blue.
That's the one that I use.
I gotta get a magnifying glass to read the numbers here. I got like 20 of them here, and 20 or 30 is taken off. Probably came from a spool. I'll be back here in a little bit. W0BTU.
That's the one that I was using on my crystal radio. I also would take them and take the detector diodes in a radio and replace them with those.
Did you say the BAT 46?
I think so. I'm just got my magnifying glass here. I'm going to check.
Yeah, it looks like at low current they have a turn on of 250 millivolts.
250 millivolts, okay. Yes, they are BAT46.
Yeah, that would be a good detector diode.
Well, the guy that I got them from, can't think of his call sign. His name is Chris Scharf, or I don't remember. He said if I put those in the noise blanker,
W01240.
W0BTU.
KC9VKV.
Anyway, he said if I put those in place of the existing diodes in this ICOM in the noise blanker, it'll work better. I don't remember the details, but I have to Google those.
Well, see, it's got probably a lower turn-on voltage, so the blanker would be more sensitive. Then you could adjust it, easily to clip at lower levels. Which a lot of the noise blankers are, you can turn them all the way up and still not, they don't turn on soon enough. Idea, I guess, about the noise blanker is that you want it to turn on before you get to the audio level, to handle the spike, but not to have to, get into the audio.
I'm gonna move that, see what I can come up with. W0BT, you guys carry on.
Yeah, fellas, I need help here with, I'm running an ICOM 736. It's got the BSO death strip. The, what do you call it, encoder is froze up. And I can't see well enough to do anything about it. You guys got any suggestions on who I can get to work on it?
Do you have a reset button on that?
Yes.
Sometimes you have to hit the reset button.
I tried that. You get clear and enter. It's not enter. For the function, I'm trying to think what to call it. It's for the frequency down at the bottom. You hit that clear, then turn the radio on and it resets.
Roger. Yaesu on their some of their VHF radios have a problem with static electricity coming through the mic input port, since they program their VHF radios through the mic input port. If you happen to pick up a microphone and get a static charge go on when you pick it up, it goes right into the logic board and freezes it up or takes it out. If you're lucky, you can do a reset and the radio comes back. If not, you either have to take it to the factory or toss it.
Well, the encoder is actually frozen. You cannot spin the VSO knob. It's locked up, froze solid. I got to use the up-down buttons in the microphone.
Roger. Well, at least you can function that way. On the 2900, well, let's see, the 2900s have that same, it's so bad about the logic board freeze that they actually put it in the Yaesu manual about a logic reset possibility if things get jammed up, and it's all the way into their new Yaesu 3200 digital. They still have that same clause about logic board freeze and possibility of reset. So I guess it's such a severe situation that they actually had to put it in the the owner's manual, which I'm sure that they'd just as soon have not put that in there.
I know I did a lot of Googling and a lot of searching. I guess this is a common problem for these ICOMs, but they don't make the part anymore. You can't get the encoder.
Roger. I guess you could consult the internet, Google a service, operation for that radio.
You're right, 250 millivolts.
Cool. See, what I use that diode for is a detection diode for your AM, and I put them in their place, and your AM reception was a lot better, or it sounded better anyhow.
Because it had a lot earlier turn-on voltage, a lot lower turn-on voltage, so it could be more sensitive to detecting weak signals. I always found that they were talking about late night stations being more powerful, which obviously they are because of AM ground wave propagation at night. But I guess, did my experiments in the daytime, so I was always glad they had local AM stations to tune in, because that was the most powerful thing, I guess, in the daytime around.
Most of the AM stations have to cut their power back at night now, too.
Ham, or you mean commercial broadcast stations?
Oh, no, I mean the broadcast stations. Were you talking about the ham stations?
No, I thought you said ham.
Oh, no, AM, sorry.
Roger, yeah. They do that to protect other stations. They go directional to lower the power, because, there is in AM commercial radio, there is obviously a big propagation of signals efficiency at night in the skywaves. So a small station, it's just a daytime station at a local market with a kilowatt. That kilowatt at night becomes equivalent to a much stronger station, and it creeps into other stations. Bailiwick, and causes heterodynes and stuff, so they want to keep those stations apart.
Exactly. I found it kind of interesting that even the clear channel stations usually cut down their power as well, but maybe that's to cut down on the heterodynes, as you say.
Well, true. Unfortunately, Clear Channel has got a bad name from iHeartRadio, formerly, quote, Clear Channel. Imagine the audacity of naming a really crappy company like iHeartRadio Clear Channel. That's the ultimate, I don't know. But anyway, the true 50,000 watt Clear Channels stay 50,000 watts all the time.
Agreed, that was just crazy.
Yeah, you mean about Clear Channel Radio? Yeah, and just as soon as everybody realized what a crappy company they were, they changed their name to iHeartRadio. Thought they could walk away from it.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and the thing about it is that Clear Channel iHeartRadio has got no respect for the tradition of AM broadcast stations. The AM broadcast stations, the older ones, take a great deal of pride in their accomplishments in community service. And iHeartRadio would think nothing about swapping call signs from one station to another, just destroy all that tradition. And they've done it many times.
Who could have foreseen the need to trademark the term Clear Channel?
I don't understand the question.
Clear Channel 650 WSM, and then, it wasn't trademarked, so Clear Channel Communications decided, well, we're going to own that term. That's just, audacity with a capital A.
Yeah, and A stands for other things other than audacity, and they are that. You know, they have, in my day, I spent 50 years in commercial broadcasting, and during my day, you could own 7 radio stations and 7 TV stations. And suddenly here's Clear Channel iHeartRadio coming up with 1,400 radio stations, owning 1,400 radio stations. They would go into a market, and they would, if there were 10 radio stations, they would buy 7 of them. You know, and they thought that when they had 7 radio stations in one market, they could dictate the ebb and flow of the commercial radio spot situation, you know, and to the point that they would pay 2 or 3 times the worth of the station to acquire it. And then they, lo and behold, found out that they couldn't dictate that policy, even with 3/4 of the radio stations, owning 3/4 of the radio stations in one market. And now, since the fact that they paid 2 to 3 times more the worth of the station in the beginning, they can't unload them. And unfortunately, you know, they have consolidated, you know, 7 radio stations, news departments into one news department with sometimes one guy. You know, the news person for 7 radio stations. They've consolidated the traffic department, 1 girl for that instead of 7. Put all the stations, studios in one building. Just absolutely cheapened up the commercial broadcast industry to the point of non-existence and total disarray. And now they're, you know, ready to go bankrupt at any hour.
Against Ajit Pai's new proposal to allow even greater media consolidation, like Sinclair Broadcasting?
Oh yeah, that's terrible. You can't do that, you know, because you know, just like the situation with iHeart Clear Channel, 1,400 radio stations are now in great peril, and you know, you just it's a lot better for individual operators. You know, the 7-station rule, I think, should be reinstated, and I think that the people that signed off on the 1,400 radio stations need to be tried and sentenced for you know, acts against the society, really, because it just, you know, they just, well, I think there must have been some money involved there somewhere.
Oh, there was a ton of money involved, and of course there's money involved in this new thing, you know, where he's going to let us, he's going to let the big conglomerate companies own all the media outlets, you know, so there won't be that separation anymore, so it could be all the media outlets in a single city may be owned by one company. That's just pathetic in my mind. Yes, I'll be back in a couple minutes.
That's pretty much the way it is with iHeart Clear Channel. They would go, like I say, they would go into a market and they would buy 3/4 of the radio stations and consolidate them all. And you know, in some cases, they've actually sold the land that the towers are occupying.
Wow, you're 30 over 9. Give me your call sign again. You're an interesting fellow. This is MICHAEL-W0BTU.
Right, this is Kilo Charlie 9 Victor, Kilo Victor. Name is Jim, Juliet India Mike, and we're up around Louisville, just across the river from Louisville in Indiana. Roger.
Okay, Kilowatt Charlie 9. Sorry, I missed the rest.
Kilowatt Charlie 9 Victor, Kilo Victor, VKV.
KC9VK. Okay, Jim. Well, I'm glad you broke out. Can't speak for anybody else. I'm kind of glad you just jumped in here. This is fascinating stuff.
Well, you know, the unfortunate part about it is the reality of, you know, all those radio stations in deep doo-doo, you know, just because of, you know, the acquisition of them. If they had left everything alone and, you know, it doesn't. I don't think it matters really that iHeart Clear Channel has no class. That's secondary. The unfortunate thing is that one entity was allowed to conglomerate 1,400 radio stations. You know, I don't care if it's RCA or you know, a legitimate company. You know, but it's just really unfortunate now that the situation exists that these stations have been cheapened to the point that, you know, it's like 1,400 radio stations are being programmed by three guys in Syracuse in a basement. Nothing against Syracuse.
TV too.
I double with somebody. Go ahead. It's capitalism.
Barely. That's the problem. Not good capitalism.
Grew up listening to shortwave, but hardly anything else to listen to anymore.
Well, yeah, that's the other part about it is that, you know, creativity cost. I grew up in a time in commercial broadcasting when creativity was considered to be important, but it cost. So the first thing that Clear Channel iHeartRadio cut was you know, creating new programs and new thoughts and interesting things. You know, they just went to the cheapest items to program. You know, and people just got tired, and iHeart Clear Channel had cheapened it so much that they don't even know what creativity is, and then they wonder why nobody listens to radio.
Well, it's like reality TV. You know, the majority of the networks, the big guys, moved to all this reality garbage, and that led to the growth of the smaller networks like USA coming out with decent shows, you know?
Roger. That's true, and they have, you know, and I watch a lot of A&E and stuff like that, you know, just because it is a more interesting situation than the quote major networks.
Oh, I just can't stand the reality stuff. It's so good for the networks because it's easy. There's very little creativity. The budgets are ridiculously low as far as TV shows go. So I don't know. But you know, television and film is my business. But they're all kind of tied together.
I don't want Charlie. My wife and I hardly watch any television anymore. What's left to watch?
I watch BTV, that's it. BTV, one channel.
Watch the Cartoon Network.
Conversation on 3892.
Hey there, Steve. Good morning.
Oh, I've been here.
Why, you've been sawing logs, man.
Gully, the popsicle.
Been IDing every 10 minutes.
Speaking of sawing logs, Steve, you were sawing logs last night. I heard you snore.
Did you?
Yeah, I came back in to the radio, and I was hearing you snoring, and then you woke up and you sneezed a couple times.
That's the downfall of Vox.
Night. That was a double.
That's the downfall of Vox operation.
Said, I don't think that was me. I don't sneeze at night.
But you notice he didn't say anything about snoring.